The Doctor Is In is a co-production of Ave Maria Radio and EWTN Radio and carried across the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
You want some bad news, Michael?
No.
What are you asking me?
You're the guru of the gray matter. I figured if anybody had it, you'd have the answer.
I can't give you any direction.
I think I'm going to have to change this channel. I'm sorry.
You're completely wrong.
I refuse to be wrong on 2 calls in a row.
Tell me I'm spot on or tell me I'm crazy as I'll get out.
I have no idea.
I have a 6-month-old, so we'll be raising him according to Dr. Ray.
Talk about being a winner.
So, you want my question?
You ain't making any sense.
You're absolutely right. I just needed confirmation.
So what are you going to do about it, Dawn?
I'm calling you.
Now, from the studios of Living Bread Radio Network in Canton, Ohio, the hometown of Mother Angelica, here's Dr. Ray.
An old-fashioned dad. Trapped in an aging psychologist's body. Very nice to have you with me on The Doctor Is In, with my compatriots there in Ann Arbor. Andrew Kruchek, producer man, and Eric Dumont, who you will talk to first before you get to me. And a lot of people just been informing me that they called just to talk to Eric. And that's why I notice line goes up, there's the caller, and then they disappear. And Eric tells me, yeah, I took care of it. So at least I'm glad I get some of it. 877 573 7825. 877-57 equal. People get confused with that 57 equal thing. What is that 57 equal? Well, it's a 5-7, and then you spell out equal with your numbers. Dr. Ray, that's an extra letter. Yes, it is. But it wouldn't sound all that good going 577, 877, 57 equal. Just no, it wouldn't work. People say, how do you spell that? 877-573-7825. I want to thank Oklahoma Catholic Radio. Boy, I'll tell you what. Jeff and Kathy Fennell have just put so much time and effort into 18 years of growing that station and its reach. They told me they cover about 2/3 to 3/4 of Oklahoma. Love Oklahoma. So, thank you so much for allowing me to be part of the Ask the Fathers fundraiser on Friday. And then I went up to Waterford, Michigan. You guys didn't cooperate with the weather, but I did make it home by 2 in the morning. And I will tell you this that I noticed with these parish talks. Typically, the food, especially the dessert tables, dwarf many of these high-priced catering services. I walked into Our Lady of the Lakes in Waterford, and I saw this 10-foot-long table with dessert after dessert after dessert. These high-priced caterers can't touch that stuff. So, thank you, Waterford, Our Lady of the Lakes. I want to share with you a little prayer before I also share with you some distressing data. It's a prayer I kind of make in the morning, to help me get my day started. Dear Lord, so far today, I've done all right. I haven't gossiped. I haven't lost my temper. I haven't been greedy, grumpy, nasty, selfish, or overindulgent. But in a few minutes, Lord, I'm going to get out of bed. And from then on, I'm probably going to need a lot more help. In Jesus' name, thank you. Yeah, well, I wonder where I was going with that, huh? Starting to little brag prayer there. 877-57 equal is the number to get onto the program. All right, let me draw up these stats. Now, this makes me nervous. I don't know where he got them, but the fella says here, Dr. Austin Lake is the name of the guy. I could see some of this. This dovetails with my own experience. Since 1990, 35 years ago, this has been the percentage increase in these diagnoses. Now, some of them are mental health or behavioral. Others are physical. ADHD, since 1990, has gone up 819%. That's 9 times. 9 times since 1990. Now, you are forced to say, well, we're just becoming more sensitive to it. We more likely recognize it. Or you could say, are we overdiagnosing it? This one, I remember struggling with this in my office. Not me personally. But I was getting teenagers, parents coming in with their teenagers diagnosed as bipolar disorder. Now, bipolar disorder is a serious disorder. It is a serious mental disorder. It's not fluctuating emotions. But what I was seeing was some of these kids are getting this diagnosis because of the fluctuating in moods that can be very typical among teens, especially if their frustration tolerance is very low. So, do you want to know the increase in the diagnosis of bipolar disorder in youth since 1990? Ready? You ain't going to believe this. You ain't going to believe this. 10,833%. Now, I'm trying to figure out what is that? Is that 100 times? Let's see. No, it's got to be more than that. 10,000 times. Kids who are discontented and moody because of circumstances in their lives, and the more time they spend in the cybersphere, the more likely that's going to happen. There's all kinds of research saying that. Also have periods where they're okay. They're upbeat, fun, because things are going good as they define it. All too often, these kids are getting diagnosed bipolar. I remember a study done by, I believe it was Harvard or Yale, one of those. And they said, and this is those guys, or persons, said that according to actual statistics, in terms of how you recognize the disorder, the symptoms, it's at least 50% overdiagnosed. Now, that was probably among adults, but this disorder in youth. Okay, let me see if I got anything else here. No, a lot of these are lifestyle diagnoses, and they're frightening. For example, depression. Well, that's not lifestyle. One more mental health here. Up 280%. That's 3 times since 1990. What's going on here? We are not looking at the cultural forces that are shaping how we think and feel and act. We're just not. Got some big ones here. Autoimmune disorders, up by 1,600%. Diabetes, 305%. Now, most of those are probably type 2, but there's been an explosion in type 1, and we're not really sure why. The more fuzzy the diagnosis, the more likely it explodes. Fibromyalgia has gone up 7,200% since 1990. Chronic fatigue syndrome, 11,000% since 1990. Autistic spectrum disorders, 2,000% since 1990. These are mind-numbing jumps. Absolutely mind-numbing jumps. Now, I don't know where he got these statistics. I'm going to assume you can go to his particular site, Dr.Austin.Lake, and see. Apparently he does have a following. So stunning, just absolutely stunning. And this reflects, I think, our obsession with diagnosing mental health issues that are in large part a reflection of cultural dissatisfaction, unhappiness, broken homes, giving God the boot, spending time in the cybersphere, all of these things. Unfortunately, what tends to happen is that we look at this and say, well, it's internal to the person. This bipolar disorder diagnosis in teenagers is internal to the child, rather than saying what, in fact, is making this kind of mood fluctuation explosively more common than it was 35 years ago. 35 years ago ain't that long ago. We're not talking 1922. We're talking barely 2 generations ago. Yeah, these are, on one hand, enlightening and, on the other hand, frightening statistics. 877-573-7825. 877-57-equal. I'm going to comment on Jim here, but I also want to talk to Barbie. This is Dr. Ray.
How would you like to celebrate the Divine Mercy at the Shrine of the Divine Mercy in Poland on Divine Mercy Sunday? Well, you can. Steve Ray here, inviting you to join us in Poland as we follow the footprints of John Paul II, Maria Faustina, and Maximilian Kolbe. Daily Mass at the most iconic, beautiful churches and delicious local foods. Join us in April for Divine Mercy Sunday in Poland.
Find the Ave Maria Radio travel tab at avemariaradio.net. When your children consider going to college, where are you going to find a place that will prepare them for the future and build on the foundation that you've laid? The answer? Ave Maria University. With an authentically Catholic curriculum, including 35 majors, AMU prepares students to take on the world.
I've seen the difference in my son since he's been at Ave Maria. He's happy, he's excited about what he's going to do with his degree, and he's living his faith.
Learn more at avemaria.edu. That's avemaria.edu. Do you own popular index mutual funds or ETFs? If so, you're automatically own shares of companies that conflict with your moral beliefs. Ave Maria mutual funds are managed to conform to pro-life and pro-family values. Long-term investors can invest in the no-load Ave Maria mutual funds. The experienced professional portfolio managers make decisions based on investment fundamentals and pro-life values. You can learn more about Ave Maria mutual funds today at 866-AVE-MARIA or visit AveMariaFunds.com.
Underwritten in part by the following nonprofit.
Are you paying high prices with a traditional health insurance company that pays for things that violate your conscience? There's an alternative available. Solidarity HealthShare is a community of faithful individuals and families that never share into immoral medical services, all while saving you money with prices starting as low as $85 per month for singles and $512 for families. Never fund another abortion with your healthcare dollars. Call 844-313-4999 to learn more.
Hear about the atheists who produced a new Christmas play? Yeah, it's called Coincidence on 34th Street. Jim from St. Louis called. He dropped off. He just wanted to mention he had heard friends say that when they went through some weight loss programs, I don't know which programs those are or whether it was intermittent fasting, their desire to drink alcohol disappeared. I don't know what the physiology behind that would be. There could be an indirect influence. Those who overindulge in alcohol oftentimes are trying to maybe deaden anxiety or at least temper mood fluctuations. And if they don't like their body or their weight and they're unhappy socially because of it, more likely to drink, to get to the point where they feel more confident in their appearance. They might have less of a desire to deaden some of those emotions with alcohol. Just a speculation. Barbie from Ohio. Hi, Barbie.
Hi there.
You sound like a Barbie. It does, just kind of this real upbeat sort of,
Well, I've been told a time or two.
So you're back with your ex-husband.
Yes, praise Jesus.
Okay.
Happier than ever.
Yeah, I just very quickly, I don't want to get too far off track, but how did that happen?
Well, we have been in each other's lives because we have kids. We've always had a united front over all the years, even have done events together, gone to the movies together. You know, even when we were dating someone else, we let the girls know that there is no book written on divorce. We make our own bond through the Lord, and we worked as a team as much as we could.
Okay.
And so I kind of explain it this way because I know we've tried a handful of times over the years, and it just, for whatever reason, it didn't work. So what I tell people is, you know, when you have a kid and they're trying to walk and they're just starting to walk and they keep falling down and they cry, and you're right behind them, though, to help pick them back up, hold their hands, and show them that they can do it. And you do this over and over again. You know, we are our kids' biggest fans. We want to help them to thrive. And so that's the way I felt with God in our lives.
Good.
I felt that he was always our biggest fan. He let us fail, but he still picked us up again, because when do we learn? We learn from the rough times in our lives.
Okay, well, let me bring you up to date here. You have one child from another relationship.
Correct.
The stepdad is the gentleman you're back with, but the biological father of this child is still in his or her life, correct?
Correct.
So what are you juggling?
Well, it's for my daughter. She's 12, and her dad has not been able to financially support her well. In his own way, has used her for manipulation purposes to get at me over the years. She feels, I can tell that she's very torn. My ex-husband has always been in her life one way or another. He's been a really good support. And the way he puts it, he says, my daughter is our daughter's sister. So in a way, she's kind of mine too. How beautiful is that?
Is the biological father still in your 12-year-old's life?
Yes, and there's always been kind of guilt trips because she doesn't want to go over there much. He's moved. She says she doesn't feel like that's really her home. When they are together, they really don't do much. Her dad's on the computer a lot, kind of leaves her to fend for herself.
How much does he push it?
Every other weekend.
Obviously, he has some kind of visitation.
Yes, like every other weekend. I'm custodial parent. I mean, he sees her.
So what? Okay, Barbie. How is this affecting you?
I can tell that she is torn. You know, she wants to really bond with her, let's just say, stepdad, and they've always been close, but yet her biological dad kind of puts guilt trips and stuff and says little things and says, I'm keeping her from him and whatnot, but yet he always kind of uses her as kind of a pawn.
Okay, a lot of dynamics here. Barbie, a lot of dynamics. Let me give you just some quick thoughts.
Sure.
The stepdad is the one who's mostly in her life. He is the one who is there, his presence. So she can give him whatever affection and respect that is his due. The biological dad sounds like you're saying he comes and goes and he's a little unreliable. So because of that, she says, well, you know, I don't really have a whole lot of attraction to that relationship. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
But in essence, you got a couple things. One is legal. She's got to go. It's a legal thing. And
it's actually not legal. We never were married or anything. I am full.
Oh, okay.
I have full custody.
All right. Well, then,
so that's where I'm torn as well.
At that point, then, I would say sit down with the dad and with your daughter, if she's willing, and have her explain to stepdad what her reluctances are. I would come, but we don't do anything. You're on your computer.
With the stepdad, not the biological dad.
With the biological dad.
Okay, all right.
If I misspoke, I meant biological dad.
Yeah. Okay.
And because of that, now, again, you don't have to worry about torn loyalties. You give to each what is their due. Stepdad's raising her, so he's got a lot. The bio dad, he visits, and his tie has been rather erratic over the years, and you can see your daughter saying, "I'm not, I really think my stepdad is my dad." Okay, that's fine, but at this point, let's give your bio dad a little bit of respect, if in fact he lives up to it. Thanks, Barbie. I will talk to you. Zachary from Indiana, he wants to comment. He works in the mental health field, and he wants to comment on some of these explosive mental health stats that I shared. Hi, Zachary.
How's it going?
I get the feeling that you're anecdotally or informally have experienced some of the same thing I've experienced.
In a way, yeah. I myself have, done some of this, firsthand, working in the community mental health field myself as a therapist, and for a few years now. And there's certain ways we have to go about things. We don't just, diagnose things left and right, for people. It's not.
Well, if you're taking insurance, you do.
Well, no, I mean, there's insurance you have to have for sure, but.
And they only pay certain diagnoses if they're mental health diagnoses. If you don't diagnose, they don't reimburse.
I'm doing it.
Right?
Yeah, but there's always certain things you do, but there are certain things you can't do unless it's like properly diagnosed through different tests and that sort of thing. So, and one of the reasons why with statistics booming is because more people are seeking things out and more people in the field and that sort of thing.
I think that's right. I think that there's been an explosion of therapists, all kinds, counselors, social workers, life coaches, psychologists. Yes, there's been an absolute explosion of that. The numbers are mind-numbing. And you're right, more people are coming through. I think there's two factors touching on what you're saying. One, our profession is very diagnosis-oriented. We see pathology. So that's one. The second thing is, I think you can't underestimate the subtle pressure put on therapists by insurance companies who will only reimburse if there's a diagnosis attached. If there's no diagnosis, you don't make a diagnosis, then the client is not going to get reimbursement or the agency's not going to get reimbursement. True? I mean, that's the way it was when I was at the mental health center.
Yeah, and the problem is you want to make sure you're helping your people. That's the thing I always had a problem with is I just want to make sure I'm helping my people. My thing is, like I always talk to them about is after I get the diagnosis taken care of, whatever it might be, and I always tell them that if they see me, it might be diagnosis B. If they see, Stacy down the hall, it might be diagnosis A. And if they see, Dr. Ray, it might be diagnosis C. What I look at is symptoms, and then we tackle things from there and help them out.
And I think that's a very smart way of doing it, Zachary, because you're looking at the picture as opposed to the name. But anything that has an explosive number, for example, the 10,000+% increase in juvenile bipolar diagnoses, you got to start asking some tough questions. You can't simply say, okay, that is a mere reflection of more people coming to the fore with these kinds of struggles. Those numbers are just so over the top that you got to start looking at, okay, what are the factors entering into this? Hey, thank you, Zachary. I appreciate it so very much for your call, sir. This is Dr. Ray, 877-57-EQUAL.
Catholic Connection with Teresa Tomeo.
No one sees a face of abortion, in particular, because it's hidden by semantics, it's hidden by words, it's hidden by phrases, and these grandiose claims of, it's all about reproductive rights and the women, and women shouldn't be, forced to carry a baby to term, especially if they were victims of rape or incest. So you put all of these ideas in people's heads that this is all about the good of a woman, but not looking at the people involved, the baby, and of course, for example, a woman who we know from research, Dr. David Reardon has done a lot of research on this area, that women who do conceive through rape and carry the baby to term and either keep the child or place it up for adoption are much better off mentally. Mental health, they can deal with that, they can heal much more quickly because two wrongs definitely don't make a right.
Catholic Connections, Teresa Tomeo. Weekdays, 9 a.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio.
Who is the Creator's masterpiece? The Catholic Catechism says that God's masterwork of the mission of the Son and the Spirit is the all-holy, ever-Virgin Mary. She, for the first time, was the dwelling where the Father could place His Son and His Spirit to live among men. The Church, says the Catechism, has often read the most beautiful texts on wisdom as relating to Mary. She is acclaimed in liturgy as the seat of wisdom. The Holy Spirit prepared Mary for her great task by filling her with grace, and by sheer grace she was conceived without sin. It was appropriate that she, in whom the eternal Son would dwell, would herself be without any stain of original sin. This is Peggy Stanton, and this has been the Order of Malta's Minute with the Catechism. Please visit us at our website, www.maltausa.org.
Giving you a remedial psychological education Monday through Friday, 1 o'clock Eastern Time. Sheila from Greendale, Indiana, has a comment. It is a comment I think is going to touch upon sort of what the research has said, and this has been her own personal experience. Hello, Sheila.
Hello, how are you today?
Well, I've said this before, but I want you to know, and this is no insult,
okay,
but your name is often on the lips of softball players who, when batting, hit a little dribbling ground ball or pop up to the infield. Do you know what some of the teammates yell?
Tell me, please.
Hit the ball, Sheila.
Hey, I did in the day. I was a good softball player. That's funny. Thank you for sharing.
Sure.
Well, I wanted to bring up this subject. ADHD is near and dear to me. I have 4 children, 2 adult sons, that one's 49 and one's 34. And they both, one was officially diagnosed with ADHD, but one doctor, one was definitely had ADHD. I couldn't handle them. I was very young when I had my first one. I was 22. But over the years, I learned about loving him unconditionally. And they said, always, make sure you're consistent. I go, okay, you don't know me. But, I tried. I'm consistent with what my belief was and my belief in them. I found the good in them. I emphasized their good. I tried to have them work on their talent. My boys were both brilliant. They were low-level geniuses. And they could
spoken like a very objective mother.
Yes. Well, no, they were tested. I had tests with my second child because I thought I missed the boat. And the teachers are telling me with my second child, and they all went through Catholic schools, and they just don't have the resources. So they're telling me about my youngest son. Oh, he's got ADD. He's got ADHD. And he says, And we'll get the state to get a psychiatrist or a psychologist and do study. And I said, no. He's my child. I will choose if he's going to be tested or not. And if he is, I will go through the whole procedure. My husband and I will. So what we did, we had a complete.
Well, let me, Sheila, let me bring you up to date here. You made a comment here that they're both adults now, and they've turned out to be great people, because of what you labeled tough love. What do you mean by that?
Tough love was understanding why they do what they do, but not excusing.
So because of the diagnosis, you didn't say, well, they can't control themselves as well as other, quote-unquote, normal children, so therefore I will be loose in my discipline. You didn't say that.
No, that's not fair. That is not fair to them. I love them so much they knew they were going to have to suffer. But Mom and Dad were there encouraging them and say, yeah, you messed up. Come on, how can we do this better? And a lot of prayer.
You said an interesting thing, Sheila. Let me take you back. You said, I think it was your first, is it a son that was diagnosed ADHD? And you said, yeah, I believe that diagnosis really was on target. Is that the one, the child?
Well, with my first one, I saw he would climb out the window when he was 2 years old, supposed to be taking a nap.
Well, that's not ADHD. You know that, don't you?
Well, that's a boy, but he didn't focus on the things that he was in school, but he knew what was going on. He had a hard time focusing, but if the teacher said, this and this and this, he might be out the window fidgeting. He could repeat what she said. So, this is what I was told. But with my second son, that's the one I went through all the process. Even neurological testing.
Your message seems to be that
okay, go ahead.
Despite the diagnoses,
yes,
you parented them according to your structure, your rules, your follow-through, recognizing that even if neurologically they were a little more impulsive than the norm, that you had to hold them accountable or else the world would hurt them.
Yes, I remember I would say to my one son, this isn't fair, this isn't fair. And because he was being disciplined, there was a consequence for his action. He couldn't go out with his friends. And I said, if you're not going to talk to me like that, if there's anybody to blame, you go look in the mirror and you talk to yourself. I'm not going to hear it. You're to blame. You chose.
Well, Sheila, you got rewarded. You got rewarded because you were a loving, firm mom. And whatever it was the kids were called in their youth, I'm going to hope that these things aren't still bugging them and that, in fact, they're doing a fine job of being young adults.
No. When my youngest son got married, if you're familiar with the song Like a Bridge Over Troubled Waters.
Simon and Garfunkel, 1969 or 70. Yeah.
Oh, you're good.
Grammy Award winner.
I asked him, why did you choose this? He says, Mom, you were always there. You were that bridge that got me over all my troubles. So the troubles were there. But Mom was there to give him that support.
Showing the power of a good parent, Sheila. And just remember, hit the ball. Thank you, Sheila, for a sweet call. This is Dr. Ray. I'm going to take care of the break. Quick comment here. Joanne didn't stay. She asked this, and I'm going to get myself in all kinds of trouble with this. Could all of those explosive diagnostic percentages talking about in my monologue be because of vaccines? Short answer, no. Too many wildly disparate diagnoses. Could certain vaccines perhaps have effects that are not brought to bear? That could be. I'm not going to argue with that. That's something that's highly needs to be explored. But if you say vaccines caused all of that horrid jump in diagnoses, I think it's very safe to say no, not at all. It would be giving Oh, way, 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 way too much evil to vaccines, and vaccines have done a lot of good. People don't realize how much before vaccines folks died of infections. Infections were the number one killers of everybody prior to vaccines. My mother herself was one of the last people who got polio. Well, polio is virtually almost all gone because of the Salk vaccine. So just in a lot of ways. All right, we'll get to you here in a second on the other side. 877-57-EQUAL. That is the number. I'll be right back with you.
"60 Seconds" with Father Mitch Pacwa.
Within the people of life and the people for life. That's who we are. The people of life and the people for life. Part of our self-identity. The family has a decisive responsibility. This responsibility flows from its very nature as a community of life and love, founded upon marriage and from its mission to guard, reveal, and communicate love. The family and marriage has a mission to guard love, to protect it from false forms of love, from false uses of people, using people and abusing them. It also is to reveal love and communicate love. This is part of the family's and marriage's purpose. You reveal love to the world. People say, oh, marriage is just a piece of paper. That's baloney. This is you saying to the public, I'm loving my wife and my husband and my children till death do us part.
The people you know and trust are on EWTN.
Christ is the answer, with Father John Riccardo.
John chapter 11, verses 21 to 26. This is the story of Lazarus. Lazarus has died. Lazarus is one of his best friends. Just before this passage, we hear the news that Martha and Mary send word to Jesus that the one you love is sick. And the next line in the scripture is, now because Jesus loved Martha and Mary and Lazarus, he stayed where he was. His friend's in need. He can heal. They've seen him heal before. And yet somehow, because he loves him, he stays. And Lazarus dies. And then Jesus shows up 3 days later and is greeted by Martha and Mary, who confront him with the words, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would never have died. Rather applicable for many of us in our lives. We ask the Lord to do one thing because we're certain it is what we think is best, when in fact he has something which far surpasses what we ask for. The challenge is, in waiting for that to happen, we go through very trying times, which oftentimes makes us wonder, does he really care?
Thank you for joining me here on The Doctor Is In. Dr. Ray Guarendi, 877-57-EQUAL. Little past the halfway mark. Still got plenty of time to talk together. I'm going to talk to Vanessa from Texas. I'm not sure Vanessa wants to talk to me. I think maybe her mother wants her to talk to me. I'm not sure about that. Vanessa, is this your idea or your mother's?
No, it's my mother's, but I mean, I'm open to talking to you, of course.
What did she do? You're sitting there, you're taking a nap, and she calls here.
I had to put my son down for a nap, and I've also not been feeling well, but, and I just had a new baby about 3.5 weeks ago, and that's where I'm at. And I came home to San Antonio from San Angelo to be with her for a couple of weeks. And
wait a minute. You're going to be in San Angelo shortly?
I live in San Angelo. Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm going to be in San Angelo.
Oh.
Hold on a second. Let me grab the book. Get the details here. I'm giving a talk. It is February 27th in San Angelo, Texas. You want details, you just go to Guadalupe Radio or you go to my website, drray.com. It's a talk. I think you'll appreciate it. Did I say November? Okay, February. Sorry, February.
February. Mm-hmm.
February. All right. Now, why did your mom think that she had to set you up to call me?
Well, her 3 kids didn't have that many problems when she was raising them. The problems came later on in life. So younger in life, they were disciplined. My mom's from India. And we were all disciplined, very straightforward. I mean, we didn't defy her. We didn't defy her. We didn't look at her and, do the opposite of what she asked us to do. My father's Caucasian from America. My mom moved here legally. Met him in Houston. And anyway, so I'm raising children in the America we live in. I just had a brand new baby, and my firstborn, who's about 2.5 years old, he's very defiant, very,
Vanessa, would I shock you if I said your 2-year-old is not defiant?
No, you wouldn't shock me, but you'd shock my mom.
Here's what I mean. Your 2-year-old is just doing what comes naturally.
That's exactly what his father told me.
So, because of that, you're going to have to teach him out of his defiance. Mm-hmm. Now, he's 2.5. He's probably old enough to be placed in timeout, whether you put him in a playpen or you strap him into his high chair.
Sure.
You can do that. He's old enough. And if you said he just threw a phone at you, okay, so what are you going to do about that? You can't just yell at him for throwing the phone at you. You can't just say, we don't throw phones at Mommy. You have to do something about it. You have to show him that if you do that, son, there's going to be results, and Mommy is going to enforce those results. Mm-hmm. Vanessa, I got to tell you, what you describe, I hear from, I'm going to say, at least 50% of parents with 2-year-olds, which is defiance, strong-willed, difficult, challenging, oppositional, high maintenance. These are 2-year-olds. So they do. Your son is totally unsocialized. He doesn't have any impulse control. He's going to do what comes to him at the moment. You're the one who's going to have to teach him out of that. And that'll make him just... Go ahead, dear.
I feel like I do a decent job recently with a new baby. I've been getting a little bit more aggressive, which I don't like. Like, I grabbed his arm yesterday, and I pulled him, and I said, don't do that. And I didn't like that because
you're getting frustrated.
I'm not aggressive.
Well, you're getting frustrated.
And,
wait a minute. Hold on. Stop right there.
Also...
Stop. You said, I grabbed his arm, and I said, don't do that. Okay, what'd you do about it?
I mean, I put him in timeout after I said, I'm sorry, I grabbed your arm. And then when he came out of timeout, I sat him in my lap. I told him I loved him, and I told him what he did wasn't okay.
So when he does it the next 27 times, you do that again the next 27 times. See, you're probably thinking, well, I did that, but 8 minutes later, he's going to do it again. Mm-hmm. Sure. That's kids. That's what they do. See, parents think, well, I tried that, and tomorrow he did it 2 more times, so he must be defiant. No.
It's a matter of me controlling my emotions when I handle him, and I have to, and so does Garrett, his father, and we're doing our best, and I think we're doing a pretty good job. He goes to a school, and they enforce learning, and they enforce, this type of school he goes to, which a lot of people may not agree with. They don't enforce yelling, screaming. They tell me, don't say no. You don't tell your son.
Don't say no. You're going to a school where they're telling you, don't say no.
Yeah. You tell him, go ahead and stand here. When you're ready to listen, let me know, and you can come out. And, I mean...
Well, Vanessa, I'm going to have to let you go because I'm past break. But let me just throw a couple thoughts your way. One, if you're being told by child development people you don't say no, my experience as a clinical psychologist dealing with thousands of parents is that you're going to get very frustrated. You're going to get very frustrated. Mm-hmm. You're not going to like what you're going to be like, and the kid's only 2 years old. And you're thinking to yourself, holy mackerel, if I can't handle a 2-year-old, what's going to happen when he's 12? So given that, you may be doing some things that aren't working real well. And if he's going to a certain school and they're telling you, gee, we don't say no, we get down and we do gentle parenting and we talk with him and we explain it to him, that's all well and good. But you better be prepared to do something about it, because my office is filled with parents who say, I know I did what the books told me, and I did what his preschool told me, and he's 6 years old, and I can't stand my kid. And you don't want to get to that point. I have a book that might help you. It's called Discipline That Lasts a Lifetime. It is the most common discipline questions I get asked from parents, 2 to 18. Discipline That Lasts a Lifetime. It's on my website, bookstore. I think it'll help you an awful lot. Okie dokie. Vanessa, thank you for the call, dear. This is Dr. Ray.
This program is brought to you by the following nonprofit underwriter.
Are you longing to hear God's voice? Lord, Teach Me to Pray, the free Ignatian prayer series, will open your heart to His voice, to the peace you are seeking, and the only love that fulfills the human heart, Jesus. God is calling you to true joy, knowing Jesus personally. Lord, Teach Me to Pray is free. Go to LordTeachMeToPray.com, click on the red box, order the Lord Teach Me to Pray series now. Go to LordTeachMeToPray.com.
We are the pro-life generation, passionate about building the culture of life in our healthcare and in our nation. But not all healthcare options are equally pro-life, and some provide morally objectionable procedures. CMF Curo is different. CMF Curo is a pro-life Catholic healthcare ministry providing a pathway for its members to build the culture of life in their healthcare choices, not destroy it. Learn more about CMF Curo at mycatholichealthcare.com. That's mycatholichealthcare.com.
The wisdom of Mother Angelica.
Have you ever been so grief-stricken and so heart-sick that you can't see God? You can't see God in the tragedy. You can't see God in that cross. You can't see God in that sick. Why? You're enveloped in that grief. You're enveloped in fear. And God is out the window. You don't see Him standing right next to you.
EWTN. Live truth. Live Catholic.
This program brought to you in part by Ave Maria, Florida, a big kind of small town where golf carts take you everywhere and there's always something fun around the corner. Discover championship golf, resort-style amenities, and a town center full of shopping and dining. With Ave Maria University and Ave Maria Catholic Church at its heart, it's a community full of connection and charm. More than 25 model homes are available for viewing. More information can be found at AveMaria.com. That's AveMaria.com.
Thank you for joining me here on The Doctor Is In. Vanessa brought up so many good points. There was a book written many, 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 many years ago by Dr. James Dobson. It was called The Strong-Willed Child. Certainly, kids can vary in their inclination to push back against a parent's authority. Be foolish to say, no, they're all equally tempered and one isn't tougher than the other. That's not true. My 10 children were adopted. And some of them, especially the children we adopted older, had some very turbulent histories. There's drug exposure in the womb, alcohol, early neglect. So they would have temperaments that would make them more inclined to push back against being socialized. Of my 10 children, I would not consider any of them strong-willed. Now, am I one toke over the line, sweet Moses? How could you have 10 kids under some rough circumstances? Not consider any of them strong-willed? I think there's a simple explanation. The strongest-willed of my 10 children was not stronger-willed than his mother. At one point, they were all under 12. She knew she had to keep order, or our house would be chaos, total chaos, and I would lose business because people would say, he can't even handle his own kids. I'm not buying his book. Oh, yeah, they pulled stunts, of course. Some deception, trickery. But in terms of defying their mother or me, it didn't happen. Why? Because very early on, they learned there will be consequences, and you can count on it. It's not going to be we're going to just yell at you or correct you, and that's it. If you did something wrong, if you hurt a sibling, or if you deliberately kicked over a block tower that your brother had been building, we're gonna deal with it. There will be repercussions. There will be consequences, and they will vary depending upon the seriousness of the offense. We had one child over the whole child ring experience actually physically, and I don't even want to use the word hit because I don't think it was. I think it was more of an impulsive jerk. A parent, 12-year-old son. There were so many consequences on that because we want to make it so very, 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 how many berries is that? Clear. You'd never, ever, 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 ever even think about physically assaulting your mother. My office is filled with good parents. These are not bad people. With good parents who have been hit by their kids repeatedly. How is it that these kids have gotten to the point where they're doing this? Almost always, it isn't because the kid is strong-willed or defiant or belligerent or oppositional or high maintenance. It's because the parent didn't establish loving authority early on. And I know when Vanessa was talking, and she just briefly described a little bit of what the philosophy at her son's preschool was. And it sounds like what is umbrella called gentle parenting. Gentle parenting, my humble opinion, is flawed because its main premise is that children are eminently reasonable creatures. As long as you explain, as long as you share, as long as you listen, as long as you properly interact, psychologically speaking, that's the best way to parent. Unfortunately, the message is to all these young parents, this is what you need to do to be psychologically enlightened as a parent. And then, if the parent believes that this should be enough to keep the child from misbehaving, then when the child misbehaves, naturally you're going to think, well, he's not, quote-unquote, normal in the sense that his will is stronger than the norm. I will tell you, in my years of shrinkdom, the mental health center, Head Start programs, drug placement centers, school districts, I have not seen a whole lot of strong-willed children. I've seen children who are strong-willed with their parents, resistant with their parents, defiant with their parents. But that doesn't mean the child by nature is in the top 5% of defiance. Most of them are not. You can teach defiance. If as a parent you're not consistent, you don't follow through, or you're harsh, or you yell and emote and remind instead of actually taking calm, firm action, the reality is the more authority you have as a parent, and I'm not talking jackbooted, kick the door down authority, I'm talking about loving, strong authority. The more authority you have as a parent, the less you have to discipline. It's an inverse relationship. If you have the authority, the kids know it, they read it, and you don't have to use it. Thank you for joining me here on The Doctor Is In. I appreciate it so very, very much. Monday through Friday, coming to you. Walk with God. He has the epitome of loving authority.
For information on Dr. Ray's presentations, books, and CDs, visit drray.com and follow him on Facebook and Instagram. The Doctor Is In is a co-production of Ave Maria Radio and EWTN Radio and carried across the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.